There are several types of skills students need to achieve their dreams. These include skills related to self-advocacy, communication, technology, social interactions, community involvement, and independent living. In the past several decades, new technologies have opened a whole new kind of support for students who are deaf-blind to develop these skills. It takes a great deal of planning and support for them because of the lack of access they have to their environment. They need ongoing support from their families, educators, and service providers.
Advocacy. Advocacy means to me to advocate for myself, to stand up and say, I need this. I need tactile interpreters, or I need voice interpreters, or Braille, accessible formatting, accessible communication, advocating for myself.
Advocacy means to me being able to let people know what your needs are so that you can be successful.
In regards to self-advocacy, you have to let people know your communication needs. For example, if someone is signing too low or too far to the left or right for you to follow them, you need to be able to tell them to sign in a specific box or location. I need to describe to them my visual space so that they can sign within that same area. They may also need to wear specific clothing and to not wear large bracelets or earrings because it's so visually distracting. I have to be able to let interpreters, SSPs, friends, and family members know what I need. Also, those needs change at nighttime.
An SSP is really important for deaf-blind, especially the students, because they're still learning. They're learning their communication needs. They're learning how to actually let people know what that need is. And an SSP is able to help them communicate that information, maybe probe them to be like, oh, can you see me okay? Do you need me to move a little bit? And the SSP, if they start when they're younger, then as they move through, they're able to identify and start advocating for themselves and say, hey, this is what I need to access this communication.
I've learned a lot about the variety of technology, the variety of communication options that are available, and how those can be combined. And I think that piece is really critical and really nice for the students who are here, because they get to have exposure to other students who are like them, but not necessarily exactly like them. So they get their world open to different ways of communicating, traveling. They get to observe others advocating for themselves, even in this environment, asking for clarification, asking to sit where they need to sit, making sure that their technology is available. So getting to observe others and be around others who are advocating for themselves and who are, interacting on this level. Not to mention the speakers and the information that they're receiving about how important it is for them to continue that.
She is very self-determined on her own. That has been one thing that we've really not had to worry about with her. But I guess it's more of the independent living skills that making her do more around the house, doing her own cooking and learning to take care of herself and washing clothes and doing things that we typically do for her a lot. Because when she goes off to college, there's not going to be anybody to do that for her except for herself.
What do you think it'll look like after you leave, when you go home?
I hope that she'll gain a lot from this experience, learn to self-advocate for herself more. I think that we've also in the past done that for her sometimes. And I mean, she's been good about it at times at school. They've told me that if she has had a substitute interpreter or somebody, she will go to them and say, I didn't really understand this interpreter. She'll talk to her deaf ed teacher and advocate for herself some at school, which we're glad and proud of her for that. But I do think, I know one of the things that they talked about in our last thing was as they transition, let them start making their own doctor's appointments or doing things. And I realized we do all of that for her. I also usually interpret for her when we go to doctor's appointments a lot of times, and need to start letting her decide, you know, she needs to get her own interpreter and how to go about doing that, and teaching her some of those
I think
skills
it's
too.
been pretty valuable.
So it has been very valuable for me. I started realizing a lot of things that we really need to start working on, and I'm glad that we came when she was only 16, because now that gives us time to work on those skills,
Yeah.
you know. And at first I was a little worried because I saw where they were ages 16 to 22, and I thought, gosh, she's going to be one of the youngest students here, and was a little worried about that. But now I'm really glad we came when she's younger, because
earlier the better.
it really is.
Yeah.
What I take a look at is our whole population of young adults and students that are on the census. And that goes from the whole spectrum of those who have more significant challenges on top of their vision and hearing loss, to those that are going to be maybe college bound or more looking at that college and career path. We need to bridge that chasm for them. We need to help them to meet others so that they understand what are their needs. So as the young people who can self-advocate, they begin to advocate not only for themselves, but for our whole group of deafblind.
I think that she's taught me that she has the determination and the willpower to stand up for herself. And even Katie has said, she came to my room last night and she said, Mom, I learned so many things. She learned that there are people out there that are doing things that are truly amazing to her. And she was so fascinated by what Cody taught her over the weekend, that he was teaching them not only could they dream, but they could find ways of achieving that dream.
Once he hit the middle school age, I requested a note taker, or demanded a note taker, because it was necessary. He had a good one for the 1 year, and then he had a bad one, and so we're pushing for a new one. So that's been a big necessity. He misses about 60% of what's going on in the class with the FM system. And I think a lot of teachers and professionals don't realize, just because he has the FM system for support, that it's not a cure-all, it's not a catch-all.
And one of the things that I keep reminding the teachers as we have our IEPs and get together is that even with everything that we're doing, it doesn't even put him on an even keel with the other students, you know. And they think that just because he has the support, that, you know, he's on a even level, and he's not. And, you know, they don't realize how much extra work it is for him to do it. It comes to mind one day, I asked him to write all the notes for everything, because he was not going to have a note taker the next day. And I told him, and I gave him an incentive. I said, you write all these notes, you know, you'll get to have your iPad for, you know, whatever amount of time. And he gets home the next day, and he brings all these notes that he wrote. Barely legible, but he brought them home. And but he was so tired. It just took so much out of him, and he just slept the rest of the day. He couldn't even do homework. And so, you know, it's a real eye-opener when you realize how much harder it is. And it doesn't put those kids on an even keel, but we got to give them at least a fighting chance.
One of the things that we think is really important when we have a Transition Institute, we build in multiple layers of activities so that we look at a true transition experience. So you bring together young people from different places, and we want them to kind of celebrate from where they're from. So we make sure they tell us about what they're interested in, what are maybe gifts and talents that they have, so that they are becoming role models for each other. So that they can say, oh, I didn't know deafblind people could do that. I might want to try that too. So we build in what are their skills. The other piece that we know is that it's important to have things that you do outside of the academics, outside of the focus on career and college ready. That's all important, and we want to build those skills. But what are you going to do for fun? How are you going to socialize? How are you going to have a rich life? So we want to give them that opportunity.
To become a leader as you grow and attend school, and possibly college, it's important to be involved in many different activities, like clubs, after-school activities, sports, or theater. These types of activities offer you a variety of skill sets. Once you become interested in a specific area, then you can become a leader within that group. For the future of deafblind organizations, youth or teenagers will need to assume the roles of leadership and take our place for the longevity of the organizations.